Supergirl 2026. The box office for this is lower than expected. It's going to open behind Toy Story 5's second week, with a bunch more sure-to-be high-grossing movies on the way. By the time Spider-Man Brand New Car comes out, this is going to get buried. Reviews and reception are mixed, and unfortunately, it's not looking good for this movie. Having now seen it, it's not great. And I really wanted it to be, because I think the comic it's based on is. All the pieces are here to make a movie I should like. I like the director and the writer, a lot of the casting, Millie Alcock as Supergirl, and all of that. But for some reason, when some of these things come together, they just don't work for me. Also, Lobo's here.
My man!
This film can be looked at through two different lenses. As an adaptation of the comic book, Woman of Tomorrow, or simply a Supergirl origin movie. And, unfortunately, I think it kinda fails at both. According to the director, Craig Gillespie,
I very deliberately didn't look at Tom King's book when I first got the script. I went off of Anna's script. And there was a grit to that, and I really wanted it to come from character. She's going to all of these different worlds that are on the fringe of society. I wanted to feel the poverty, I wanted to feel the crime, and the dust and the texture.
But he then read the comic book after. I think such a huge part of why this doesn't work for me is the visuals. Right off the bat, I thought the opening shot was strangely abrupt. It's kinda crazy how the best shots in Supergirl 1984 are better looking than the best shots in this movie, which has $150 million more to work with. It's not all bad, though. There's some cool alien designs. I like the shrimp guy and the way he moved his mouth. And Seth Rogen.
You need to get the fuck away from me right now.
You bet, yeah.
There's just so much good stuff from the book that's not here visually and story-wise. A lot of similar ideas, like with Crypto being poisoned, the space bus, the yellow sun power-up, Ruthie in the cave with injured Supergirl, or kinda the green sun. I gotta say, in the movie, the suns on these planets conveniently rise and fall very quickly. You would think in the final battle there would be a timer aspect where Supergirl has to do everything before the green sun rises a second time, but that doesn't come up again. My biggest issues with the movie is its structure and script. It takes the comic's naturally episodic nature and its elements, and either waters them down or removes them entirely to fit into an hour and a half. It results in a final product that feels jumbled together. I get having to simplify the comic for a feature-length film, with all the additional layers of dimensions and stuff like that, but I bet they cut some of the bonding between Ruthie and Kara too, and that would have been nice to see. This movie sort of feels like it was treated as a Supergirl sequel, as if we already know all these characters and this isn't the second movie in a new cinematic universe. We're immediately thrown into the deep end, and the characters aren't really given any time to breathe and be properly fleshed out. The entire film can be boiled down to Supergirl and Ruthie are in some sort of samey-looking dark environment, and this movie's version of the Ravagers from Guardians of the Galaxy is after them. But the movie comes up with a way to nerf Kara before they fight, she artificially struggles to win, they get away, she flies into the sun to get her powers back, and then you just repeat that a few times until the movie ends. It feels very repetitive. It's kind of boring and predictable. The amount of scenarios they had to contrive in order to not make her invincible is almost laughable. So she spends a lot of this film in a depowered state, which I just think is underwhelming. It's weird she kept falling for the same kind of traps multiple times. I usually don't like to nitpick things like this, but her power scaling was inconsistent. Like, how are you going to get shot by multiple kryptonite arrows? Just avoid them. You're Supergirl. Did you forget how to use your powers? You caught a spear out of midair in, like, the scene before and after that. The final fight is no different from the other ones in the movie. There's no escalation. It's the same people fighting every time. The final fight is the final fight just because the movie had to end. There's no way to tell how many Ravagers there are or how powerful they're supposed to be. I didn't realize how strong the main villain Krem was until he lifted a tank halfway through the movie. I was sitting there like, what? And then he straight up just kills that little girl. Like, damn. He was being all dumb, then out of nowhere.
I will kill your infant daughter.
Worst part is, I felt nothing, because it was really Supergirl's fault. Ruthie is about to kill Krem before he gets the girl, and Supergirl takes her away, not wanting Ruthie to kill for revenge, letting Krem get away and kill that family. Supergirl's decision cost them their lives, but she gets on this moral high horse. But Ruthie's right. Had she killed him, it would have saved those lives. So, that blood's on Supergirl's hands. There's a lot of artificial looking zoom-ins in this movie, especially when Supergirl sees the girl Krem killed in the alley, as if the shot is being amateurishly zoomed in using an editing software like the one I'm using, and not practically on a lens. They also use the same shot of Krypto when they cut back to him like 3 times. That CG is expensive now. They really couldn't animate at least one more angle of him. That final slow-mo needle drop when she's a one-woman army at the end is getting a lot of hate. I think the problem is that the song comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't match her punk rock aesthetic. It doesn't have a reason for being there. It feels very out of place. Seemed like they were going for a similar concept to Mr. Terrific's fight scene in Superman, but it fumbled for me. It was just weird since the camera was focused on the aftermath and Ruthie reacting to it instead of Supergirl, who was just out of frame. Ruthie reminded me of Jaden Smith in After Earth.
Sir, I am dedicated, have studied, and consistently display conduct becoming of a ranger, sir.
A movie you've probably never seen, so if that means anything to you, great. Something that I like is that Supergirl isn't necessarily special in this movie, because on other planets, everybody's got some ability or magic or tech. She's an alien, like everyone else. In this universe, Supergirl isn't known yet, but in the comic, she's getting attacked everywhere she goes because, well, she's Supergirl. Or Superman did something to them and their cousins. But here, she's chilling because they're both relatively new. In the comic, Krem just looks like a normal ginger guy. He's a member of a group of brigands who are stuck on Ruthie's planet, so they steal Supergirl's spaceship to get off-world. Here, there's an awkward contrivance to get them to do the same thing. Throughout the whole movie, characters just keep wandering into each other for no reason other than the story needs them to. The villain is supposed to have this aura of being chaotic and evil, but it came across as really generic and lame.
Your ego's pissing me off. You think you're the shit. You think you're so high and mighty.
He never comes off as scary. Even the look is too much. His design is too similar to his lackeys. He's one of those characters who could have used a Power Rangers type suit-up montage to display and appreciate all his details. Maybe it was my theater's projector, but his introduction shot was so dark, I couldn't even see him in it. He doesn't even say or do anything interesting. He pretty much just pulls a Brad Pitt and eats in every scene he's in. He doesn't really say too much at all. It feels like he has less than 30 lines. At no point did I think Krypto was actually going to die from what he did. The entire runtime, Krem wasn't thinking about Krypto or even Supergirl really. So why would he even keep the antidote around his neck? It's not like he needed it. Why did they even give him that voice modulator? His voice barely sounded any different from a normal one. When he first clicked his stoma button, I wanted him to sound like Machine Head from Invincible. At least it would have given him a little more character.
Nah.
This whole movie felt like it was trying to be Guardians 3 mixed with the Marvels. And True Grit, but that comes from the comic. You really see it in that teleporting fight scene on the bus. And there's a moment where they go to a little girl slavery planet, and that was ripped straight from Guardians 3. It's established very early on that Kara doesn't view Earth as her home. So why would she have those Walkman headphones? Especially since she didn't land on Earth in the 80s. That just didn't make sense. And it felt too close to Star-Lord anyway. A new element in this is Lobo, and I think they did a good job with him. I liked him in the scene where he's thrown in the brig with Ruthie.
Look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
Even though it felt like an obvious later addition. I think they knew they needed a little more Lobo in this. I think that's why they didn't show him getting defeated and captured in the brawl before that, because they couldn't get everybody back in that fight scene for reshoots. He just inexplicably shows up in his jail cell even after winning his fight and escaping. Jason Momoa has a lot of 80-yard lines here. For as good as it is to finally have him in his dream fan-cast role as Lobo, why is he even here? He serves no purpose. He's just here. He's fun, but you could take Lobo out of all the scenes he's in, and nothing would change. I think they just wanted to have Lobo in this universe and established so he can show up in later DCU projects. The way Supergirl talks about him in that dive bar makes it seem like he's way meaner than he actually is, which I guess is the point. So, there's a few action moments which I think are solid, but not too much that jumped out at me. They are a lot of the time paired with an ugly CGI backdrop, which makes it less interesting. The green screen in the final fight was starting to remind me of the Flash's empty CG Dragon Ball Z field battle from his movie. The flight and punches just aren't shot with the same weight and impact as they are in Superman. The amount of cuts in most fight scenes mixed with the dark lighting made it hard to make out what was going on. It was super disorienting. I couldn't really tell what was happening on the screen. Except for that one action scene after Supergirl was poisoned, the movie locked in out of nowhere for that fight sequence. Also, when Supergirl grabs Krem and just combos him for over about a mile, that was pretty cool and fun. When she's wearing her suit, which is barely at all, I think it looks great. Why did they even keep it from her in the first place if they were just going to give it to her in the most unnatural way possible in the last 15 minutes? Like, just give her the suit earlier on. It's not like she really changes that much as a character by the end or anything and becomes Supergirl and earns her suit. She was good from the beginning of the movie. In one of her first scenes with dialogue, she super selflessly saves Ruthie without having her powers. The big difference is she just wasn't drunk at the end as opposed to the beginning.
Julian!
There's a handful of flashbacks to Krypton in this, which fleshes out Supergirl's character. For anyone who still had doubts, it also doubly confirms that Superman's dad is an asshole, by showing that he planned for his son to be a god on another planet. That stuff I all liked. I think they get a lot of Supergirl's characterization right in terms of why she is the way she is. She witnessed the destruction of Krypton and lost her family, but she is ultimately a good person. I like the scene when she's talking to her mother, and she tells her that she's got to be good. I do think that Supergirl being so different from Superman is a positive thing for their dynamic. I like that this version of her isn't just Superman, but a girl. Again, Millie Alcock is great in this, and doing the most with what she's got. The ending here is very different from the comics, and I don't think it's for the better, both in terms of the moral of the story and Supergirl as a character. In the comic, the story takes place over several months instead of just 3 days. And in the end, Supergirl admits she had been lying about Krypto's condition for months, because she wanted to teach Ruthie about the meaningless of hanging on to the past, while also realizing it's a lesson she hadn't learned herself. When they finally confront Krem, Ruthie stops Supergirl from killing him, so instead she sentences him to the Phantom Zone for 300 years. After that, he comes back and is super remorseful. He repeatedly begs old woman Ruthie for forgiveness, and instead she just knocks him on the head with her cane, he falls over, and that's it. It shows she was able to move on. She doesn't forgive him for what he did, and she shouldn't, but she didn't let revenge ruin her life. Here, at the end of the movie, Supergirl has a moment with Krem and Ruthie, where she tells Ruthie that if she kills him, she'll be letting revenge consume her. And then Supergirl just stabs and kills him. That felt really out of character for Supergirl to kill this guy in the way she does. But we know that Supergirl kills, so I don't know. Also, it's weird that Lobo is just watching this whole thing in the distance and hitting a...
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
Again, this is not supposed to be a direct adaptation of the comic, but the changes that are made don't service the narrative of the movie. Overall, anything changed is done better in the book. With that said, I think the average non-comic reader would probably still think this is fine. But for me, this is really disappointing. I was really looking forward to this when it was announced, hoping the atmosphere and tone would match its comic counterpart, but this movie doesn't have anything in it that made me feel the way Superman 2025 did. If you couldn't tell, I really like that movie. Superman himself makes an appearance, and David Cornsweet is incredible. What a great pick for Superman. He just gets it. His dynamic with Millie Alcock is good as well, and she's going to have a big role in Superman 2, Man of Tomorrow, so that's good. The scene where she goes to his apartment on Earth at the end felt like it should have been a post-credits. The movie just abruptly cuts to it after the fade to black that was clearly supposed to have ended the film. What a flat-looking final scene. This just wasn't very good. I don't think it's down there with the bottom of the barrel of DC, but this is definitely a big step back from Superman.
I hope it's not too much trouble, but I actually ordered a triple vodka Coke, and for some reason...
You chose to f me in the face with what looks like a glass of piss and shit.
Look, if you take anything away from this video, it's to read Woman of Tomorrow. Or any comic book in general if you haven't already. Pause here for some newer recommendations if you want. So, I'm going to give Supergirl 2026 a very disappointing 5 out of 10.
Mid!